Fantastic weather again today and lots of people outside. It's because it's Canada Day tomorrow. I had some ideas on what to do anyways in terms of where to go. And what I read today. How about this first one was kind of interesting. As you know, there are some officials and insurance companies, for example, using their drones to fly around properties and areas to see whether or not people are violating certain regulations. And in some cases, like when it comes to insurance, their insurance is being canceled because of what they see. I guess because of stuff like that, there's a lawsuit of sort where they're saying it's not legal, I guess you could say. So apparently here, Sonoma County faces a lawsuit over warrantless drone surveillance, and 3 Sonoma County residents, Nicholas Schmitz, Benjamin Verdisco, and Susan Brock, have filed a lawsuit against Sonoma County and its permit Sonoma agency, which they allege that the county's use of drones for warrantless surveillance violates the California Constitution. So in this complaint, they claim that since 2019, Permit Sonoma's code enforcement section has conducted over 700 drone flights, and they captured at least 5,666 images of private properties without judicial approval. And these drones, they were equipped with cameras, for example, that have a really good zoom range and all that, and they fly as low as 100 feet, recording fenced yards, homes, and private areas. That's what they say anyways, targeting both cannabis related and non-cannabis code violations. And it's kind of interesting, as they also allege that they use drone data to impose things like penalties, justify ground searches, and criminal investigations without the transparency to residents or officials. And they were essentially concealing this drone program, where when officials were asked apparently back in 2022, they often just gave a very vague response to avoid scrutiny, according to this anyways. And with that, apparently the plaintiffs seek declaratory and injunctive relief to halt the program, require warrants for drone surveillance, and stop the illegal expenditure of public funds. And they also request reasonable attorney's fees and other relief deemed just by the court. So here we have the argument of police officials, for example, using drones to try to catch distracted drivers, where people argue there's absolutely no different than someone else, for example, just standing in the corner using a high-powered camera or something like that. But how about in this case? What would you say here? If they feel there's some kind of criminal activity, do you think they should be able to do this without a warrant or anything like that, especially on people's private properties? I can imagine in that situation it's a little bit more sticky, because you could potentially capture things that are unintended and not related to your investigation, especially in a private property. And speaking of high-powered drones, apparently there was a new drone unveiled by DJI. It was released in China. It's the DJI Flycart 100, a heavy lift drone logistics system, I guess you could say. So this is meant to fly cargo, obviously, and to try to grow the low altitude economy, specifically in China. And as you can imagine, with all the geopolitical stuff around the world, it's highly unlikely you'll see this in places like the US, I suppose, in the near future anyways. Some general specs: apparently it has a payload capacity of 80 kilograms and a range of up to 26 kilograms without a payload. And with a single battery, it can apparently carry 80 kilograms for about 6 kilometers. Whereas with dual batteries, they say the range extends to 12 kilometers with a 65 kilogram payload. It apparently supports thermal hot swapping, and according to this, with the fast charging, it says it could reach full capacity in just 9 minutes when paired with DJI's optimal 12,000 watt wall charger or the 15,000 watt car charger. Can it fly in different weather conditions? It says it is IP55 rated, and it allows operations in dust, light rain, and temperatures from minus 20 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius, and winds up to 12 ms. I guess people in the China area will start to see these flying around in the near future. Then again, a lot of people have mentioned too, which I wouldn't doubt, maybe you'll see this in the battlefield somewhere, where a lot of places are using products like DJI drones. I would imagine this, unfortunately, people would use it for things like bombs and stuff too, huh? And although it's Canada Day tomorrow, this news was going around a lot here. You know, there was that trade tension between Canada and the US, where the US decided to stop all trade talks because of the digital service taxes that was going to be implemented here. And now because of that, just like that, they basically rescinded it. Like here it says, Canada rescinds digital service tax to advance broader trade negotiations with the United States. Canada's new government is engaged in complex negotiations on the new economic and security partnership, with the United States focused on getting the best deal for Canadian workers and businesses. Prime Minister Carney has been clear that Canada will take as long as necessary, but no longer, to achieve that deal. To support those negotiations, the Minister of Finance and National Revenue, the Honourable Francois-Philippe Champagne, announced today that Canada would rescind the digital service tax in anticipation of a mutually beneficial comprehensive trade arrangement in the United States. So a lot of people are criticizing this, for example, saying everything they said during all those campaigning and elections about staying strong and so forth, it didn't end up being true. If you think about it in virtually every way, not just with the US, for example, as they made that recent arrangement with the European Union, again, where apparently we're going to follow along with things like their digital ID, increasing military spending and all that. It makes you wonder, what the heck? It kind of reminds me, again, when it comes to this politics stuff, it doesn't seem like anybody actually follows through with what they actually say. Kind of reminds me too, anyways, just like with things like drones, for example, and over-the-top regulations. Unfortunately, there's just so many people that just fall for it. For example, someone could just go up there, say the right things, I'm on your side and so forth, I'll do this and that, but ultimately they're just in it for themselves, in my opinion. Like here, I guess they got elected, the guy gets a job and so forth, but they don't really end up doing anything that they say, huh? All right, see you guys later.